Good morning. I would like to call this voting meeting of the House and Labor Industry Committee to order. Jonathan, can you please take the roll? Here. Here by designation. Here by designation. Here by designation. Here by designation.
Here.
Here.
Here by designation.
Here.
Here by designation. Here by designation. Here by designation. Here by designation. Here by designation.
Thank you. First on the agenda, we have House Resolution 407, printers number 2992, sponsored by the Majority Whip Dan Miller. Representative Green makes the motion to bring up House Resolution 407, second by Representative Scott. Ryan, please explain the resolution.
House Resolution 407 designates June 17th through June 21st, 2024 as Apprenticeship Week in Pennsylvania.
Thank you. I will now like to recognize the prompt sponsor of House Resolution 407, the Majority Whip, Dan Miller, for brief remarks on the bill.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, everyone, for the brief moment today. Look, to be honest, part of this, too, I want to thank Representative Devanzo for some of his comments as we talked through a couple issues together at an event not too long ago back in Pittsburgh. Obviously, I think most of us know the apprentice program out here, run in particular by our trades, do a fantastic job. Those of us who've been here a while know that we used to more regularly even recognize that effort. It's been a while, and we thought that it was timed here for us to get back into supporting and promoting those efforts as being great for particularly young people, not just young people, but people who are looking to literally build our future, their future here in Pennsylvania through those programs. And so we very glad to team up with Representative Devanzo to put this before you today. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. The Minority Chairman, McKenzie, will be offering an amendment A04672. Andrew, please explain that amendment.
Amendment A04672 by Chairman McKenzie changes a whereas clause to state that union apprenticeship programs helped build the middle class.
Thank you. Any comments? Okay. Oh, let me print a motion. Sorry. So let's have a motion to bring up the amendment A04672 by DeOrsey and second by Representative Gleim. Now I'm going to recognize Minority Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the sponsor of this resolution. I think all of us actually do appreciate our apprenticeship programs across the state, both union and non-union. They are terrific ways for young individuals to gain skills training as they move into a career in these types of professions, and we think that's a wonderful thing. I've visited a lot of them over the years, and we would like to continue to encourage them. The one thing that I did want to highlight in this amendment changes is there is a line on page 1, lines 6 and 7, that says particularly unions built the middle class. And this is about apprenticeship programs, so union apprenticeship, even recognizing union apprenticeship programs, our amendment would say union apprenticeship programs were a meaningful part of the growth and success of the American middle class. And the reason that distinction is important is that I'm again, not denying that they are a valuable part of this process and are beneficial for young people to attain higher levels of education and then higher earnings. But I think by definitively stating that unions built the middle class, we're leaving out a lot of other folks that help build the middle class as well. And, in particular, I would like to point to our veterans. If you want to talk about building the middle class, it primarily happened in those years after World War II and in the 60s, up to the 60s. That was the veterans who were returning from World War II, who received the GI Bill and were able to get higher education. They received benefits from the government to help them achieve home ownership. Those things in particular are left out when you say unions built the middle class. You're forgetting our veterans. And that's not acceptable in my book. And so I think this amendment is very agreeable. It should be something that still recognizes union apprenticeship programs, but says there were only one meaningful part of the growth, not the only thing. So I would ask for a yes vote on this amendment.
Thank you. Recognize Representative Deloso.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What this amendment fails to recognize is that the union model, in recognizing that basically corporations and employers have abdicated all responsibility for training and tries to force it back on the state. You know, as we turn welders out of our high schools and we turn bricklayers out of our high school, and we do these things where big business has generally abandoned the hire and train model and forced it back on the state. The unions, in recognizing this, not necessarily in partnership with their employers, but essentially on their own, have self-funded apprenticeship programs that have most certainly built the middle class. It rings hollow to say that our veterans built the middle class. Our veterans are contributors to the middle class, absolutely. Many veterans are also members of unions. And in the period in the late 40s, early 50s, and middle 60s, after we had bombed essentially the rest of the world into oblivion, we rebuilt the rest of the world while corporations stored away money, did not reinvest in their manufacturing abilities, and hence into the 70s we appear and we are still making things as if we were in the 50s, but those which we bombed into oblivion had the benefit of all our new manufacturing models and then showed it to us in the 70s, 80s, early 90s. And here again, the unions stand firm, trying to construct the middle class with our apprenticeship programs. I think it rings hollow to use veterans as a block to what unions have done. The veterans have contributed in the greatest way to this country, many of whom have given their all for this country. But their brothers and their sons and their sisters and their daughters and their wives have benefit from union apprenticeship programs, as we have tried to establish a middle class with the strength and unity that only a union can bring. I will be a no on this, not because I don't care for veterans, not because I don't think that they were contributors to the middle class, as I am a veteran. As my grandfather was a Marine, my father was a Marine, my uncle was a Marine, my other uncle was in the Army. I was in the Marine Corps, and two of my nephews were in the Marine Corps. We all are contributors to the middle class, but the single biggest contributor to the middle class has been the union movement and that which is derived from union-sponsored apprenticeship programs. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Representative Green.
Thank you, Chairman. My father, whom I am celebrating at this time, was a World War II vet and the first person to ever teach me about the union. Having a union job, the importance of living, earning union wages, and I had the opportunity to work for a union and work on a union job for over 35 years, earning minimum middle-class wages. For that reason, I am opposed to this amendment. It helped me send my children to college. It helped me purchase a home. And if it wasn't for the union, I probably would not have been able to do those things. So for that reason, I am a no on this amendment, and I encourage my colleagues to be a no as well.
Thank you. Representative Gleim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is a great amendment because apprenticeships, which I'm very passionate about, cover all of the workforce, not just the unions. And again, I also had many family members in the military in World War II. They came back to be stonemasons, came back to work in paper mills, and they were not in a union. And a matter of fact, the largest percentage of the workforce was not unionized back then. And even today in Pennsylvania, I think it's around 15% of our workforce is unionized, which leaves a pretty big portion of the workforce not in that bucket. So I think that we just need to tone this resolution down a little bit and recognize that American ingenuity and innovation and the tax and fiscal policy that was passed during that time also played a role in the advancement of our middle class throughout history. So I will be a yes on this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anyone else who would like to be recognized? All right, seeing none, I would urge all members to oppose this amendment because it minimizes the contributions made by our unions in building the American middle class. Jonathan, please take the roll. No. No by designation. No by designation. No by designation.
No.
No by designation.
No. Yes. Yes by designation. Yes by designation. Yes by designation. Yes by designation. Yes by designation.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the resolution? I will now recognize Minority Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I think a critical reading of the amendment would show that we recognize the importance of union apprenticeship programs, but to state that they, as unions, built the middle class, excluding all other contributors, higher education. A big contributor to growing the middle class has been greater increases in higher education attainability and access. Greater increases in the middle class have come from increased home ownership, which again has changed because of banking regulations, changes to our mortgage policies, and then finally, as I mentioned, our veterans. And all of those things are excluded, intentionally excluded, from this resolution when you say that only one thing contributed to the middle class. It's just simply not true. And so, again, I think we need to really revisit the way that we do things in this committee. There is no willingness to work together, no willingness to take input from the other side. It is just always my way or the highway, and that is a terrible way to enact policy and move public discourse in this Commonwealth. So for those reasons, I will be a no.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Representative Green.
For the last statement, I just want to say instead of the sentiment in the room of toning things down in the absence of raising the minimum wage in Pennsylvania, I think we need to tune things up. So I'm a yes vote.
Thank you. All right. Well, I just want to read a statement from Margaret Levy, a professor and political scientist at Stanford University, who's been studying labor unions for decades. Quote, more importantly, unions built the middle class by ensuring that workers had the incomes to support families, to buy homes and cars, and to dream that their children could do better than they could. It was a union power and advocacy that helped us win Social Security and health insurance, upon which almost all of us depend. So I would like to thank the prime sponsor for introducing this important resolution that recognized the contribution, registered apprenticeship programs, and to continue to make our Commonwealth great. So with that, I'm going to ask Jonathan to call the vote. Yes. Yes, by designation. Yes by designation.
No. No by designation. No by designation. No by designation. No by designation. No by designation.
Thank you. House Resolution 407 is reported as committed from the House and Labor Industry Committee. Next on the agenda, we have House Resolution 436, printer's number 3123, sponsored by Representative Piscatano. There's a motion by Representative Green, second by Representative Deloso. Ryan, please explain the resolution.
House Resolution 436 designates June 24th through June 28th, 2024 as Union Organizing Week in Pennsylvania.
Thank you. I would now like to recognize the prompt sponsor of the House Resolution 436, Representative Piscatano, for brief remarks on his resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a resolution that we adopted last year around the same time, just recognizing union organizing and the efforts that are being made, not just here in Pennsylvania, but across the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Minor Chairman McKenzie will be offering an amendment, A04668. Andrew, please explain the amendment.
Amendment A04668, Chairman McKenzie makes changes to numerous whereas statements and adds multiple whereas statements to recognize workers and union negotiators.
Thank you very much. There's a motion by Representative Rowe, the adopt amendment A04668, second by Representative Cooper. Is there any comments? I'm now recognize the minority chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This amendment would, I think, improve this resolution, House Resolution 436, still recognizing Union Organizing Week here in Pennsylvania, but changing things like in the first paragraph, the first whereas, to state that definitively these rights are eligible to workers here in Pennsylvania. So changing it, not saying must be, but saying that the right of workers to organize and bargain collectively is the right of every Pennsylvania worker. Again, I think we need to recognize the rights that are already in place. We do want to make sure that people can exercise those rights properly and effectively across this Commonwealth. This resolution would clean up this resolution, improve it, and I think actually strengthen the position and the statement that we're making about individuals, their rights, and their ability to exercise those rights. So I would ask for a yes vote.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right. Seeing none, I would urge all the members to oppose this amendment, simply because it attempts to minimize the efforts and accomplishments of our unions. And also, last session, this same amendment failed on the floor. Jonathan, please take the roll. No. No by designation. No by designation.
No.
No.
Yes. Yes by designation. Yes by designation.
Yes.
Yes by designation. Yes by designation. Yes by designation.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion on this resolution? All right. Seeing none, I would like to again thank the prompt sponsor of introducing this resolution that recognizes the adversity of workers must overcome when forming unions and encourage all workers to know and exercise their rights. Jonathan, please take the roll. Yes. Yes by designation. Yes by designation.
Yes. No. No by designation. No by designation. by designation. No by designation. No by designation.
Thank you. House Resolution 436 is reported as committed from the House and Labor and Industry Committee. Our last bill on our agenda is Senate Bill 1109, printer's number 1461. There is a motion by Representative O'Mara and second by Representative Scott. Ryan, can you please explain the bill?
Senate Bill 1109 would codify existing regulations and case law to prohibit unemployment compensation claimants from unreasonably discouraging their own hire.
Thank you. I would like to offer an amendment, A04717. Ryan, please explain the amendment.
Amendment A04717 clarifies the work search requirements, prohibits employers from willfully making false statements to the department about claimants discouraging their own hire, and extends the effective date to 90 days.
Thank you. The motion is being adopted by Representative Young for amendment A04717, second by Representative Green. Is there any discussions on the amendment? Rowe. Representative Rowe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This language of the original bill is very similar to language that had previously passed the House and Senate overwhelmingly. I just have a question about, on the amendment, the term intentionally. How would this intentional affect the current case law, and what is the reasoning behind including the word intentional in the bill as opposed to how it's already written and passed previously?
One moment.
So it's intentionally to clarify that it's intended to prohibit individuals from intentionally taking action to deliberately discourage their own hire.
But I guess the question, the language already of the bill already says that they can't take action to discourage their own hire. So why is the word intentional necessary?
It's just clarifying.
So my concern about the word intentional, when you include that in there, is that nobody intends. Now, we all intend the best things, right? We all intend to make it to our meetings on time. We all intend to pay our bills on time. But when you say something like intentionally, then you say, "Oh, I didn't intend to oversleep, but I did, so therefore the effect of the bill no longer applies." So I think there's concern on that front. Is this going to create a new standard when you're determining benefits or disqualification of benefits? How is this going to affect that?
According to the Department of Labor and Industry, this legislation does not make any changes to current processes.
So what would be an intentional versus an unintentional act to discourage one's employment?
Rephrase that question again.
So I'm just trying to understand why we're including the word intentional into the bill, because the bill already says you can't take reasonable action to discourage your own employment. So what is the difference between something that would be intentionally versus unintentionally done?
Well, it's similar to like saying I intentionally or I tend to support labor, but I don't. But in this case, we're just clarifying it.
That answer didn't make any sense. I'm looking for like a actionable, like I'm talking about the bill here, not political rhetoric.
We're talking
I'm looking for the
hypotheticals,
answer to the
so
question about what's intentional versus unintentional.
I'm just giving you the same hypothetical you're giving me. It's I intend to say I support something, but my actions don't. We're just clarifying that word in the bill. That's all it is.
So like saying you intend to support veterans, but then excluding them from resolutions celebrating their contributions. Would that be similar in this case, Mr. Chairman?
Same as I intend to support unions, but I don't.
Okay, so I guess I'm not going to get a straight answer, I guess. I guess the concern here is that when you say intentional, it seems like we're intentionally trying to make it easier, because when you're asking, let's say, a court to adjudicate intention, that's a very difficult thing to determine when you're judging intentionality. When you're saying, I intended to do something, but I didn't, well, how are you supposed to determine whether, how can a court determine intent? And I think that we need to be really careful, because the great thing about bills like this is that we're trying to get people back to work. Work is not this bad thing. Work is not a thing that should be avoided. In fact, when we're living in an era where we are looking at overwhelmingly tragic statistics, where we're looking at the number of Pennsylvanians that are dying every day from substance abuse disorders, but those same people are being loved to death to the point where they're not able to go back to work, when the number one predictor of a positive treatment outcome for somebody struggling with substance abuse disorder is employment, is work. So if we want to save people's lives, if we want to allow them to find that point of fulfillment that allows them to continue their path to recovery, if we want to get people off of a system that is putting them in a position where it rewards their ability to continue this struggle rather than empowering them to get back to the jobs that will inevitably save their lives, then we should be making it easier for people to go back to work, not harder. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Representative McKenzie.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I would echo Representative Rowe's concern by including intentionally as a new standard, and I don't believe that this is something that the department has said would not change the way that claims are viewed or work search requirements are handled. I think that was on the underlying bill, not necessarily the amendment. I think this does create a kind of messy situation where, again, now the department is going to be tasked with one more thing of determining intent. The legislation, the underlying bill, is very similar to House Bill 1819 from 2021, and it passed the House 176 to 23. So I think the underlying bill is more than sufficient. I think it had broad bipartisan support. I think the amendment may create new burdens on the department and complicate this process more than what is going on in current standards. But look, I think the overarching bill is still a good one. I think the amendment is poorly drafted and doesn't help resolve this issue that we're looking to fix today. So I would encourage a no vote on the amendment.
Thank you. Representative Brennan.
I mean, just briefly, I mean, the unemployment compensation system is an insurance program. It is in place for when business fails and workers are left out on to try and take care of their families without a job. It is for the hairdresser who has a business close, or a person working a table and they're let go. So this is an insurance program to protect them and their family. And if the change from an intentional or a negligent act, say, as it affects benefits, it makes it harder to keep those folks from having the needs that they have for their families. So, going from adding this intentional standard, it proves that we shouldn't be questioning every move that these people make, and if they fail in some way to take some action, this is going to apply in a hearing, and the concern would be that people would be challenging every single move that they make, and this is an insurance program, not something that we should be doing that in. So I just think we need to continue to look at this as an insurance program so people can protect their families, and when something unexpected happens, that they should be entitled to those benefits that they paid in for.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none. Well, I would urge all members to support this amendment because it refines the bill language related to the work search requirements, ensures that the employers cannot willfully make a false report that the claimant discouraged their hire. Prohibiting employers from making these false reports will ensure that the claimants who cannot accept a job offer for good cause are still able to collect benefits while still searching for a better suited job. Jonathan, please take the roll. Yes. Yes. Yes, and all Democrats in affirmative.
No. No by designation. 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 No by designation.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the bill? Representative McKenzie.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So with the amendment adopted, I think the bill, again, I think it's problematic. I think, again, the intentional new standard that was added, as we've already discussed, I think that's actually going to slow down claims for unemployed individuals. It is now going to have to be adjudicated. This new standard is going to have to be adjudicated, and certainly in the beginning, there are going to be lots of cases where people are saying intent versus not intent. That is, in fact, going to hold up benefits for unemployed individuals who are struggling so much. So the amendment did not help. It also, I think has another contradiction that was not discussed, but I'd like to bring it up here about case law and the definition of the term suitable employment. That is now going to have to be cleared up. I think the overall premise of the bill is still a good one. I think we maybe overcomplicated things with that amendment. So I'll be a yes on the bill. I think we should advance it. I think, again, overall, it is still a positive step, but hopefully we'll continue this discussion on the floor, and maybe we'll continue to clean up some language either on the floor or over in the Senate. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I would urge all members to support this bill as amended. Jonathan Calderon. Yes. Yes by designation. Yes by designation. All Democrats, yes. Thank you. Senate Bill 1109 is reported as amended from the House and Labor and Industry Committee. Seeing no other business before this committee, this meeting is now adjourned.